You had a very successful crossover with Magic the Gathering and D&D with Ravnica, which was a really great book.
Thank you.
You have a new book coming out.
Yeah.
Tell me about this book. What is it?
Mythic Odysseys of Theros is our new book, bringing the world of Theros to D&D. So it's awesome because Theros is Magic's sort of reimagining of Greek mythology in a fantasy setting. So this book is simultaneously an introduction to the world of Theros and also sort of an example of how you can take mythological themes and concepts and work them into a D&D game through a unique lens.
And with Theros, the gods are very much involved, correct?
Very much. You can see them walking across the night sky. So the gods play a pretty big role in the book, as you might expect. It's sort of built around questions of piety and quests for the gods and being a champion or an opponent of the gods. The gods have a lot of space dedicated to them in this book.
And what sort of things are we going to be seeing? We're seeing new creatures, new subclasses, things that are related to Magic the Gathering that are now being kind of like moved into the D&D space.
Yep, all those things.
All of those things?
Yeah, so there's the structure of the book is almost exactly like the Ravnica book. The last chapter is a bestiary full of monsters drawn from Magic cards. We literally do go through every Theros card printed and look for things. I mean, the beauty is with Theros, both the Magic set and D&D through its history have been drawing on the same source material, so there's a lot of overlap in creatures. But there's a section of the bestiary that talks about here's what hydras are like in Theros. You know, they're familiar monsters in the monster manual, but they have their own unique spin or lore elements attached to them in Theros that add to their place in this world.
What is the world of Theros? Can you give me a big overview of what this world is in Magic the Gathering and now also D&D? How is it different than, say, Ravnica?
So Theros is fundamentally Magic's take on Greek mythology. It centers around a pantheon of 15 gods and their meddling in human affairs.
And the adventure kind of takes you on that kind of like, I expect the adventure within it. Are there adventures in it?
There is a short starter adventure, the same as we did for Ravnica, but then and Eberron for that matter, and then a chapter full of adventure hooks. I love those tables. I could kind of make those tables all day for, in fact, I did make those tables all day for weeks on end.
What's your favorite thing about the book?
There is an omens table.
Ooh.
It is a D100 table with 100 omens on it, but they're also broken down by god. So you can either roll a D100 and get just random omen, or you can pick a god and roll either a D6 or a D8 to get an omen associated with that god. It's total geeky table nerding.
How do those omens work?
They are purely flavor. Just a leaf blows across your path, across the wind. Nylea is trying to tell you something. It's meant for inspiration for the DM, but you can also, like, when you're making a character, roll on the omens table and see what omen appeared when you were born, and play with that idea.
So where Ravnica has factions, the gods that you associate with are very much your faction, I'm assuming?
The gods fill a very similar role in terms of the structure of the book, and potentially in terms of a character's involvement. You can decide to be a champion of one of the gods. You can also not. Theros, in Magic terms, our classic marketing line was gods, heroes, monsters. The tension among those three forces in the world is key. So you might be a champion of a god, but in Theros fiction in the past, that hasn't necessarily worked out well for the champions. Elspeth, the Planeswalker character in Theros block, was the sun's champion, but Heliod the sun god, ended up killing her at the end of that story because he was jealous of her power and her knowledge of other planes of existence. So it is a interesting relationship between mortals and gods, not necessarily clear-cut.
What was it like porting over Theros, which, Theros came out the most recent expansion for Theros came out a couple of months ago.
Right.
What was it like porting that over into the D&D world?
both Theros and D&D owe a lot to Greek myth already. That made the transition very smooth. Fundamentally, the challenge of working on a book like this or Ravnica is translating magic world design into D&D world design, because they are sometimes surprisingly different beasts. There was no map of Theros. I had to go and comb through the fiction for geographical references and make sure that I could come up with a map that was coherent and not contradicting too much of what we had said before. Details of culture and society and commerce and calendar and the sorts of things that D&D players care about and Magic really never has to worry about unless it's put into fiction someplace. So that sort of thing was the biggest sort of conceptual task. But a significant page count of the book devoted to the gods is just fleshing out information that we've already said, devising new myths about the gods, making up holidays for them.
What unique does this bring to the D&D multiverse?
I think for me the most distinctive thing about it is sort of showing by doing how you take real-world mythology and flesh it out into a fantasy setting. It's hard sometimes to make the jump between, okay, I've got gods, now what? In world building, and Theros really is the whole world built around that.
No, it's an interesting concept because Greek and Roman mythology is so, the gods are so very hands-on, and I can't think of another D&D setting where that's true. Certainly Dragonlance to a little bit degree, destroying half the world, and Fizban wandering around in a Steinus, supposedly being a god at the same time.
Right.
But both Theros, they might be at the bar, right?
They're a little more elevated than that. I mean, they're very present and very hands-on, but not very human.
This has to be a very strange thing for clerics, right?
Probably.
When the gods are that present in Theros, being a cleric in D&D must be kind of a different game to some degree, like when it comes to role-playing.
I think so, for sure. I mean, there is a notion in Theros that not every mortal can or does regularly communicate with the gods. The role of the oracle in Theros, as in ancient Greece, is really important. And the flip side, I guess, is that there are solid options to make gods super important for any character, not just clerics. Blowing out the piety system that's in the Dungeon Master's Guide and expanding on that to make your faith matter as you're a champion of any god or just a devoted servant of any god, very much.
So Theros, if you have a hankering for Greek mythology and you want some Magic the Gathering in your Dungeons and Dragons, this is the campaign setting for you.
The digital version of the Mythic Odysseys of Theros will still be launching on June 2nd. And remember, the first 20 fans who pre-order the hardcover at a Wizards Play Network store will receive a 50% off code for the digital version on D&D Beyond.